Hey folks, I'm a journalist on the run as always, but as I'm walking down the street this morning, I just want to kind of go over how fake news is everywhere. Let's go over the most recent example. So all over the weekend there were these reports coming out that the former president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, had been arrested. Well, now we have his lawyers who have come forward in the United Arab Emirates and said our client was not arrested. We know this for a fact. We have had journalists in Iran who have spoken to Ahmadinejad's son and said their father was not arrested. They're very clear about that. Ahmadinejad was not arrested. There are no reports in Iranian media that he was arrested. There are reports to the contrary. People have spoken with him. Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, was not arrested. But yet, do you see any retraction in the mainstream media reports? You don't see anything, right? They are pushing an agenda and they are trying to foment unrest in Iran. And they continue to push this lie that Ahmadinejad has been arrested. But let's go back a month or so, right? We remember when Isabel dos Santos, the richest woman in Africa, was removed from her post as the oil minister of the state-run oil company in Angola. Do you remember that? Now, U.S. media and the Western media immediately went into this thing saying that she was being investigated for corruption and that she was corrupt, and this showed that the MPLA, the ruling party in Angola, the Revolutionary Party was no good and all of this. It turned out it was fake, and CNN even ran a retraction and said, yeah, there was no corruption investigation into Isabel dos Santos. It was fake news. And let's go back even further. Do you remember when there was some unrest in Zimbabwe? Do you remember that, that there was, some unrest in Zimbabwe? Immediately, the U.S. press went into this overdrive saying that this was, like the fall of the Soviet Union and, oh, the Zimbabwe government's going to fall and Mugabe's reign of terror comes to an end. All this propaganda. Well, lo and behold, there was a disagreement within the ruling party, and Mugabe, who's 93 years old, did step down, but then one of his top generals came into office, and one of the first acts he did was to make Mugabe's birthday into a national holiday. I mean, the whole thing was a farce. The Zimbabwe revolution was fully intact. Robert Mugabe, who was 93 years old, was finally ready to step down, and there were some disagreements within the ruling party about who his replacement would be, but at no point was the Zimbabwe revolution ever in question. So that was fake news as well. And this fake news is very, very dangerous, folks. I'm telling you, this is very, very dangerous. This fake news is the way that the oil bankers keep their grip on the world. Whenever there's any unrest or any skirmish in the world, they just immediately go into overdrive, trying to move it in their own direction. They want to bring down the Iranian government, an independent government in the Middle East that has been fighting against their interests and has been standing up against Wall Street. They want to bring down the government of Zimbabwe, a country where they've redistributed the land to the African people, where they just nationalized the diamond mines, where they're developing in cooperation with China. They want to bring down the government of Angola, another country that has fought against Wall Street and is using its oil resources to try and bring itself out of poverty. These oil bankers are ruthless. The billionaires and the monopolists that control the Western media, they are pushing an agenda. These aren't mistakes that they are making. They are trying to rule the world, and they are trying to beat down any competitors that might emerge. It's basically monopolistic stagnation. They want to keep the world poor so that they can stay rich and hold their monopoly on the world. And they're using fake news in order to do it. And we're not going to fall for it. And here on this page, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, we are part of a little revolution. That's what we're doing here. We are a part of a little revolution because these billionaires and monopolists that beat down countries around the world and keep the world poor, they're doing the same thing to our country. They are getting rid of jobs. They are lowering the standard of living. And here on social media, if we don't get shut down, if Mark Zuckerberg doesn't come after us, we are part of a revolution. We are trying to challenge the power of these billionaires that are keeping the world poor in order to keep themselves rich. We are fighting for a whole new world where people can have jobs and education and opportunity. We're doing something very, very special here. So don't underestimate the power of what we're doing here on social media. You and me and all of us are part of something really, really special. We are fighting against the fake news pushed by the rich and powerful.